Hello, Joost van der Broek.
Hello.
Thanks for making the time.
Of course.
We're
my
very
pleasure.
proud to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go right into it. Looking at modern metal production, names like Jens Bolgren and Buster Olderholm come up a lot, and of course your name too. Do you see yourself as part of a group of producers shaping the current sound of metal?
Wow.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. I mean, to be honest, it's really hard to say that, first of all, from yourself, probably. I'm also, the cool thing is here at MetalCon is that normally you don't go out like this. You're really not too much in publicity, right? You get credited and on social media and sometimes on gigs or stuff like that, but I just walk to my studio every morning and I close the door every evening and I do my best, and I already do my best for many years, and it seems to work. And of course, I'm really happy with how this progresses and the bands that I'm working with. And funny enough, in an event like this, you feel, oh, wow, I did something right. You know, it's making an impact, and people got inspired by it and are interested in what I have to say and listen to the productions in a way that a producer listens to it, so not per se a consumer. So yeah, if you would list me in that line of producers, I'm very honored to be in there. And
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it speaks for you, that modesty, but obviously you
honesty
are one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are one
you
of those
so much.
guys. And how do you? I mean, do you ever feel not famous, or do you never feel famous? I mean, you go to the studio and work. You deal with your workload, and you don't feel famous?
No, I know, not at all. Not at all.
That's great.
No, because the thing is, and funny enough, the bands that I work with, even the biggest names, I don't work with them in a famous environment. You know, we are just a few guys and girls that write music, have ambition, have passion. And when we're at it, we're just serious and we have fun and we are just a few people hanging out. And funny enough, then when sometimes I visit like a festival just to see one of the bands, or when they play in Holland and I see them in like a huge arena or something,
Right.
then I feel like, oh yeah, wait, there is something about these guys. So no, I'm not feeling famous at all, and we also within the bands that I work with and people together, we don't treat each other any different. It's really just very normal people hanging out and trying to have a good time. Really, otherwise it would also be a bit strange, to be very honest, because I just want to be, let's say on the same level with everyone. If it's the engineer, if it's the lead singer, it doesn't really matter. I just want to have a good feeling and a good connection with everyone, and not try to put someone on a pedestal and maybe because of that treat someone a little bit less honest, if you know what I mean. Because I think what people also respect, or at least like in my approach of producing, is that I try to become, for at least a moment or temporarily, like an extra band member, so to say. And I'm not speaking that out, because that's not what I want to be.
That'll be another question, actually, because you are a keyboarder.
You
have played in bands.
Yeah, but not like that. So I don't like to pretend I should be in the band picture, not at all.
Right.
No, but I try to investigate a little bit in their world. What are they thinking of? What are their background? What do they like? But also a little bit, I try to connect in a personal way, you know?
Right.
Talk about their kids, their holidays, their troubles, whatever.
Sure.
Because then I can come on the same level with them, and we have a mutual respect, we have a mutual understanding, and then even with the biggest names, I can talk about things or issues that occur during writing, pre-production, recording, on a complete same honest level, without sugarcoating it,
Yes.
or without treating someone different than you would normally treat each other. So no, I don't feel famous at all, and people around me also don't. And they do their own dishes, and they go to the grocery store. The funny thing is that sometimes I close to the studio is an Aldi, and we do groceries there.
Yes.
And I know that, you know, some of the guys working there recognize bands sometimes.
Right.
And then they look at me, and because they know me, I come there daily, and they go, yeah, you're now working with them. Oh, it's so cool. I heard it last time. So, you know, then you feel, oh yeah, wait, you know, or even in my small village, you see a shirt of that band on a bicycle.
Right.
So then you realize, oh yeah, you're doing something that is well known. But when I'm mixing, when I'm writing, arranging, when I'm doing the dishes with these guys, it's not important at all. No.
Well, maybe that's the recipe for greatness, you know,
Maybe,
just no
yeah.
ego shit, no bullshit fighting.
And to be honest, the egos that I run into
Right.
are mostly not with the bigger acts. Sometimes smaller acts, but it's most of the time more an insecurity than an ego, right? And then it's still my job to handle that well and kind of pierce through that a little bit, like not seeing at, he's just a bastard, but let's see what's going on there, you
Right.
know?
Gotcha.
Because this guy is maybe hiding something or is feeling insecure. I try to create a nice working environment for everyone in the studio.
Cool.
And also for the ones who maybe come in a bit bold and ego-ish or whatever, you know? So, yeah.
Well, sometimes people have fear of success too, or, you know, fear that it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So, but with that pressure, obviously, isn't helpful. in
No,
the
so
process.
I try to keep that out of the studio
Right.
as much as I can. Sounds a bit strange, but I also don't like to invite too many people outside of the band themselves. So, of course, if they like it and it's cool, their management can come by to have a coffee, but they also shouldn't hang out the whole day. Same with labels. It's nice, you know, if we have a bit of off time that they can visit and they can meet the guys, but don't just come by and because that kind of makes the band feel a bit different, if you know
Right,
what
self-conscious.
I mean. Yeah, self-conscious, and
Right.
that's not the vibe that I want to create. Not saying that managements per se or labels are bad, right? But it puts them in a different context. And
Yeah. Even in a rehearsal room, when a band
Exactly.
plays and girls come in or something, you know, everything changes.
Yeah, totally.
So that's probably in the studio the same thing. So next question. Bogren stands for a very organic big sound, they say, while Buster leans more towards ultra-modern and aggressive production, right?
Yeah.
Where would you place yourself, using adjectives like that, your sound design in that spectrum?
Well, I am, of course, focused very much on more the symphonic metal, right? So my production should always be, and it's a bit of a bold term, but I'm aiming for an epic production, whatever that might be. I try to aim for something that is larger than life. Not always, but with most bands, larger than life, that you know there's much going on, but still it's easy to listen to. Easy is a bit of a bad word, but what I try to do is make a very focused product, but still with many things going on.
Right.
And that is definitely one of the things that I'm constantly aiming for. So I'm always looking for a listening direction. Okay, now I want you to listen to this. Now I want throughout the song. But the big scheme of things should always be big and epic and, you know, a wall of sound, but not in the more traditional sense, but in a symphonic way, so
Right.
to say. Yeah. And the metal aspect of things I'm doing, well, is metal, but leans even more to a little bit of a rock approach, if I say it like that. I don't overdo heavy gain guitars.
Right.
It's way more mid-range focused. I don't overdo like super heavy
Saturation.
drums, samples and stuff like that. So it definitely, that's also really what I like about the Bogren productions. That it is punchy and epic, but you never feel like, yeah, but am I listening to programming or is this a real drummer?
Right.
You know,
right.
so I definitely tend to go into a real performance, but I will try to help it to make it fit the grandness, you know, of the orchestra and match that. And many layers, very 3D, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But you've got real orchestra, right?
Yeah, when I can, of course, yes. And of course, it depends on the band, on the style, on the budget, on the time. So some bands use mainly programming and mainly a live choir or some overdubs with stuff. And for example, with a band like Epica, I do the whole recording live. So even in the tiniest percussion detail, even it's like a little bell, it will be live.
Wow.
And that's really a lot of fun.
Even just the vocals. I mean, all the vocal stuff is so, I mean, stupendous. So much going on. All right. That sound of yours, right? Your signature sound, was that something you planned, like a business plan, and then followed through, or did that develop through the artists you work with, and especially Arjen Lucassen, for instance?
Yeah.
Did he play a part?
For sure. I mean, Arjen has been a very big influence, both in my life as a person, as also in my career. Because back in the day when I was 18 years old, he gave me the chance to go on his first European tour.
Wow.
Where I met Russell Allen of Symphony X and Floriansen of After Forever back then. And he, you know, he could easily have picked someone else, but he kind of gave me the benefit of the doubt because, yeah, you know, he thought I could do it and maybe I would invest the time and my passion in it. But of course, I was listening to Ayreon and the productions that he did, especially the early ones, that spoke to my imagination, you know?
Cool.
The combination that he did with, you know, a heavy band, but using a lot of synths, using all these layers and vocals and stuff like that. That is just a very big inspiration. And also for the bands that I work with, many of them have that same background, so to say. But
so there's a scene, there's a massive scene of symphonic metal people.
Yeah, totally. And
being specialized.
And when you ask them what are your influences, a lot of them will say something about Ayreon or Arjen Lucassen, for sure. Yeah,
But it's been around long, right?
Sorry?
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think his first Ayreon album was like released over 30 years ago.
Right.
And before that, he already did some solo projects that already went in that direction before it was called Ayreon. But the cool thing is that already very early on, he also worked with people from that scene, placing them in a certain context that they didn't imagine yet, right? So talking about Floor, talking about Anneke van Giersberg and all those singers that were also really like pioneers in that style, so to say. And but coming back to the first part of your question, it definitely wasn't like a business plan, because I started off listening to heavy music in my teen years. I played keyboards, but I could never really place it in there because, you know, there were guitars and heavy vocals and stuff like that. And then one of the guys in my high school played me some Dream Theater, and I thought at first, like, whoa, I'm not sure if I like this because it's not so edgy and not so heavy. But then I thought, whoa, but this has a lot of keyboards in it, and that might be really fun to play. So I started going in that progressive scene much more and started listening back to, you know, their examples, their inspirations. And then from there, you know, the especially in Holland, the symphonic metal scene really started building, you know, and I got the chance to join After Forever. And that was my my start in symphonic metal, and I got the chance to write, I got the chance to arrange and orchestrate and work with real ensembles and choirs. And from there I felt, okay, but this is what I enjoy. I enjoy these big processes of production. With some bands I really work for like 1 to 1.5 years on and off, right? And I have sometimes recording periods that last for like 3 months.
Right.
I love that because every day is different, because
Right.
it's not only guitars. No, it's this day or this week it's the string section, the next week is the choir, the next day is the solo guitars, the next day is the lead folk. So it's very interesting. And
does it all involve sight reading? I mean, do you score charts?
Yeah.
Notation, proper notation?
Yeah, totally.
That's quite different to other genres of metal, right?
No, so I mean, not for the band, obviously, right? But for all the let's say guest musicians involved,
right?
The classical musicians and all that, it's all scores. Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah. So it has a lot of different disciplines in it, and that's what I enjoy about it, because it's very versatile, and it's the challenge of making this crossover work. And yeah, it's a puzzle. It's just a huge adventure every time.
You like putting together all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
So working with Epica or Powerwolf, how much of the final sound is your production? And do you do songwriting and arrangement sessions pre-production with the bands?
Yeah, so especially with Epica, I'm there from the very first demos on.
Okay.
So we do writing camps, we do online sessions, we do separate sessions in the studio, separate vocal session demos. So then I'm really early on already involved, and that goes on all the way to the final mastering. Especially with Epica, the pre-production is very, very extensive. So I first do this demo phase. Then from there, I go into a digital pre-production using lots of programming, and I give, people, I ask, okay, can you play this riff for real? And then send it back to me, and we do another pre-production vocal session.
I can literally see the puzzle you spoke
of. Yeah. So I build it up from the first demo into a digital pre-production, then mostly, and that's a bit new for some bands, I ask them to start rehearsing. And it sounds silly, but a lot of bands don't rehearse before they go into the studio. It's really about writing, and nowadays you have all these DAWs where you can program your guitars and do all that.
Quantize, auto-tune the shit out of it.
Everything. You never really felt how a riff would work until I ask you, hey, let's record it. And I don't believe in that. There should be a step in between. So I ask them, okay, let's rehearse. Sometimes I will be there as well, just guiding the process, keeping an eye on it, working on some details, and then I invite them in the studio to do a band pre-production.
Right.
And that means that I have most of the orchestrations and demo choirs and vocals done. They will hear it with a click track on their ears, and we start playing, we start playing drums, bass, guitar. And we start feeling, is the tempo right? How does this riff work? Is it maybe just a little bit sought after, or does it feel logic if you go there after this? How does the transition from the bridge to the last chorus feel? All that kind of stuff. I feel that you need to experience that from your musician's heart instead of just hearing it being programmed, because it's completely different. The upside to it is also that these people are really well prepared when I really start recording with them. So we don't need to figure out anything. We just have to continue where we left off. And that is very different from just jumping in the studio and just see where it ends up and do your best on the moment. So yeah, that is a very extensive thing. And then I'm all the way involved to the end. With Powerwolf, I start just one slight step later on, where they have one main songwriter that sends me his demos at some point all at once. but they're not complete songs yet. So it's like a song that has, for example, a verse and a chorus, or maybe an intro, verse, chorus. And I start putting my sounds and orchestration, which really make it like into the more Powerwolf style with the church organs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I send it back, and I hope to have him inspired to then say, oh yeah, but then I feel the bridge should go that side. Or I have a little idea, like I said, would it be cool to do this? Or maybe I repeated a pattern there, and maybe we could build upon that. The cool thing with Powerwolf, I think, is that from the very first moment on, they focus on vocals. And with symphonic metal bands, often that is a little bit too late in the process. I try to pull that completely forward. So,
right.
Because I think vocals, whatever we do, any orchestration, the vocals in the end is what the song makes, right? And the vocalist has to shine, sing the right notes at the right moment. Well, it sounds very obvious, but a lot of symphonic metal bands, they focus so much on the instrumental part that they kind of tend to forget about the vocals a little bit. And then when the song is done, they think, oh yeah, we have a female singer, let's call her and let's ask for... That's not how it worked. And the cool thing is with Powerwolf, they start demoing songs right away with doing vocal sessions.
Yeah.
And when you hear the singer, of course, the very specific sound, very specific voice. When they don't recognize the power they need, when they don't see and feel him enjoy this melody that could be the chorus, they just throw it away and they move on to the next demo. And that's how they write songs. That's how they select songs to go on the album. And I think that's a super, super important way, at least for their style, because it's very song-based. You have to be in the audience, and when you heard the chorus once, you will sing along the second chorus, right?
Yeah.
And that's not about being cheesy, that's about really good songwriting.
It's
and
human,
making...
it's emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's hitting the right spot with the singer, right? And this singer sounds because... of that, the way he sounds is because this range and this energy can be there at the right moment. And
I've noticed that. He's very on point.
Yeah.
He's very on point. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's so
and it's really heavy
composed.
what he does.
Right.
But you can imagine if there is even one note that makes him a little out of range, or if it goes a bit too low and he can't really get that very powerful sound, it's also sounding not like you would expect. So the bar is really high there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So in the creative process, right, or production or mixing or whatever, if something is not working, is it the producer's part to assume command of the situation? So having the last word or so, even if it's against the band's will at the time. Maybe that never happens, but I doubt it.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, I feel a production is not all about the producer, it's a group effort. And that's also how I like to treat everyone. Everyone has a share in this, and everyone's ideas I will listen to, and I will think about, and I will try to test it or whatever. I will never just say, that's not gonna work, let's move on. Because if I know this idea comes from an honest place, this person will say it because something got a spark there. Like, hey, I keep hearing this and this idea. Should we, whatever, add this and this because I keep hearing this? That comes from an honest place, if you know what I mean.
Value.
Yeah, and although at first I might think, wow, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I will never say that. I might think of it, but I will give it a thought and I will give it a chance. And then sometimes it can be super exciting, super surprising, and will open up to something that you would never think of.
Right.
But of course, when after trying something out, I strongly feel that it doesn't work or it's just very disturbing, I will also be honest about it. I don't see that the producer has like a veto or something. That's not how I feel it works or it should work. It's really a group effort, and especially nowadays bands are very involved in production, especially a part of the band. It's not always the whole band, but mostly a part of the band that really has good ears, follows the whole process, also has quite some knowledge of things, and that is keeping me sharp. I'm keeping them sharp, so it adds up, so to say. And then most of the time, especially when I had this whole pre-production together with them, there are not so many surprises in the end. And if really something would not work, probably it's a bit of a mutual feeling that we will have. And then maybe it's not addressed yet, but if someone
you arrive
or
at the conclusion
me address
collectively.
it, everyone will say, yeah, I was also thinking that, so yeah, let's get rid of that, you know? So, no, but it hardly happens, especially with the really more high-level professional bands, that something like that occurs, because they know what is needed.
It sounds like they're all incredibly committed too, so you
need to be, yeah.
You get less bullshit in the
Exactly.
end, you know?
There is no room for bullshit. And the thing is, I work with bands now that make their 8th, 9th, 10th studio album.
Wow.
So they are experienced, you know, and they've seen many stages and they have seen and heard many opinions.
Yeah.
But they're also a little bit in a different period in their life. They have families, most of them. They like to be effective in what they're doing. They like to be productive.
Time.
They are time efficient.
Time is valuable.
And so that's also a different way of working.
Right.
If you don't have any boundaries and the sky is the limit, and you don't have any responsibilities, it's a...
You can fuck about. You can afford to fuck about. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, but it doesn't sound like, you know, you've done that when everybody was younger and it all started out.
Yeah. No.
Because you got to the point then too, you know? Yeah. Maybe it's the genre. Maybe it's just
the
skill set you need, you know, musically as well.
Yeah.
That level of commitment.
Yeah, it could be. And of course, I mean, there can always be a situation what needs to be solved. But I do believe that a good preparation and a good pre-production and setting a straight, strong vision does so much for your whole production. I think one of my roles is actually putting people in the right mindset, in the right place. One of the things that creative people find hard to do is create overview, make schedules, see where what is needed. They are mostly a little bit less organized. I'm not saying everyone is, but some of them might, and they can not always see like the bigger picture, you know? Very experienced band can do that better than a bit younger bands. My goal is also to shape this process and say, okay, we start here, and trust me, in a few months, if we build upon this, we will be there. And around this time, we will do this, and around that time, this deadline will be. And for this, we best ask this person to step in and out, and let's already think about this. Okay, then you have a tour planned. Let's not work in the week after straight away, because you will have to be home and take a rest. I'll meet you a week later, and then we're going to work on this.
That's so cool. You make them aware of their responsibilities, and that shows a lot of respect too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're telling them, like, you are responsible. I know you're going to do it, so I just inform you, and it goes both ways, you know?
Totally.
Helping each other out.
And that gives people, most of the time, a very secure kind of red line and a security.
A frame,
a frame to work in.
Awesome. Sounds cool. Okay, next question. I think that's a bit silly now, since we went down the rabbit hole, but I'll read it out anyways. What matters more to you, #1 albums or influence on the scene being acknowledged as authentic?
Well,
whatever that is.
yeah. To be honest,
At least it gets you thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, and it's probably also a little bit. I do believe that both is not very interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't work for either one of them.
Okay.
That's not my goal. My goal is actually to make the people that I work with very happy and satisfied.
Wow.
So if the band has the final album or hears the final mix, they should be very proud and they should be satisfied with what we did in the last half a year, whatever, and they should feel, wow, we did this together, this is great, and this captured a certain moment in our lives more than anything. Because, of course, it is really nice and cool and fancy to receive like a #1 award. And of course, it also, it's a fun moment. It's cool and it's special, and I'm very thankful for it when that happens. At the same time, I receive it, and the next week this album is already a #10.
Right.
And this award goes on my shelf, and I already moved on. So it's a very short moment.
Right.
And, well, you know, being called authentic, yes and no. I mean, it's a nice thing, and that's also what I experience here. People are valuing what I have been doing and been listening and really liking that. At the same time, of course, I feel good about it. That's true. But if the bands that I would be working with would feel different about it, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
So that's my main goal. I really want to make the people happy and satisfied that I'm working with for that production. And then I feel when everyone feels like that, we did something good, and hopefully that will translate into the rest of that release and the success it might have and the responses it might get.
Sure. I mean, obviously, for the psychology of performance, with all the stuff that's necessary
Yeah.
to put an album together like that,
Yeah.
if you feel comfortable, you know,
Yeah.
you'll perform better.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
you've already got pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the bench is high. I mean, you're like, I've got to hit that note, I've got to play that
Totally.
riff, whatever. Got to nail that solo.
Totally.
We've got unisono parts or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to do.
And if you then also need to think about something like, oh, is this authentic enough, or is this getting me a #1 award? That's really not what we talk about in the studio. No.
I said it was going to be a silly question. So
Yeah, no, but it's interesting.
the next silly question.
I think people think about it from a little bit
Right.
of a distance, right? So it's a valid question.
Well, also for someone like you to explain what it's actually like from the inside,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, people
Yeah,
have
yeah.
dreams and ideas of what it's
course,
like,
yeah.
you know, and you're just
And-
like, it's just my job and I like it, you know.
And
I
to
get
be
on with
honest,
the people.
and to be honest, probably, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for receiving like a golden award or anything. But the thing is, back in the day, I really thought that my reward after a long and heavy production would be when I receive the album, the physical album.
Right.
And I remember that was really what I was dreaming of. You know, how cool would it be that you have your own music on vinyl or whatever?
And it is.
It is. But the moment that you receive it, it's such a short moment, and that's really not why you did it, you know, because you receive it after it's finished half a year already.
Right.
So it's really not the moment, it's really the way, the journey towards that moment, that's what makes it count.
Right.
And it's the same thing, like I imagine myself back in the day, like, oh, how would it be to play the main stage of Wacken, you know, amazing, and that would be like the high point in my career. Of course, it's great on your credits, but it's also one of the most frightening things to do, probably if you have one fuck up, you don't forget it for the rest of the week. And it's also probably not your most pleasant experience, because if you look back to it and it's recorded and you see the crowd, you think, whoa, that was amazing. But if you're there on stage,
In the moment.
it's very different.
Sure.
And it's not so epic and big as you would imagine, per se. It's also, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of consciousness there, like, whoa, this is what it should be, you know?
But funnily enough, if you were to look at it, you'd probably not look it.
Yeah.
You know, that's you probably remember the feeling of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, kind of not trying to overthink, trying to perform well and all that.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes gigs like that feel like they're just 5 minutes long.
Exactly.
You're just like, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I must say, sometimes because of that, I really like to look back, like when it's recorded live or a nice compilation, you see the total picture and you see the audience reactions and you see the show, and then you think, whoa, that was really cool to be a part of. But at that very moment, you don't really experience it like that, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Other projects that weren't that successful but meant a lot to you,
Yeah.
in terms of maybe creative breakthroughs you had, that didn't translate so well to a broader audience.
Yeah, that's interesting to think of. Well,
Or is that even important? When
maybe
you're doing this project and then you're doing the next, and you're actually in the moments of the projects, rather than whether it's going to be successful or not.
I mean,
like it is to you what it is to you.
I think
right?
when a process has been successful,
Right.
to me the production is successful.
Okay. Cool.
Whether it's the really the next best thing or not, or let's say just an album in the line of their discography, it's hard to say even a few years later. You need to look at it from a way later perspective to kind of understand what an album meant for a band.
Sure.
And to be very honest, if you look at streaming or at where do we look at, you know? It's hard.
What
you
is
know?
success? Yeah.
What is success? I mean, in the end, nowadays, I think a band can be called successful even more on, at least in this genre, even more on the tickets they sell instead of the albums they sell.
Or merch even.
Or merch, yeah.
Just because they're visual and cool and people
Yeah, and
dig it.
some bands do really well on streaming.
Yeah.
And some bands just don't really connect to it, although this band is selling more tickets than the band who does really well on streaming. So it's really difficult to say that.
Right.
And then again, I still love, and I will always keep doing that, still love to do projects and productions by bands that I feel
Are worth it.
are worth it.
Right.
And not per se already did 8 albums and want me to do their 9th, and just because they think I will do a good job and they need it. Of course, that's an honor, and I might do it if the time is right and I feel I could benefit, but sometimes it's also very inspirational and very motivational when you give people a chance to really make a huge step, you know, not just a small step, but really like go from almost nothing
arch.
to when I really hear something cool and I think, whoa, this is different and it's new and I need to shape this differently than any other band I work with. It's also an inspiration and a motivation for me to work with. And then when this band releases it, maybe even independently, some managements might say, why did you work with that band? Because they just have like 30,000 streams after
No
a week.
money in it.
There's there's nothing in
No
there.
prestige.
But that's not really my first thing to work for. I
So great you don't depend on that either.
Yeah.
You know, you can say no, or you just
Yeah.
probably no one even approaches you with stuff
no, because
that you'd have to say no to.
yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to tell you any names, but I actually
Yeah.
called off a project, a production of quite a big name a few weeks ago that I felt was just in need of a new album without any inspiration or any need why I would do it or why I would be the person to produce it. And it had to happen quickly, and it had to happen in any way possible.
Right.
And I didn't really feel for it. And outside the fact that timing-wise it became different, I really didn't feel any motivation.
Right.
And if you would ask me 10 years ago, that would be the biggest act I would have ever worked with.
Right.
So yes, it's also a bit of a, let's say, luxury position that you can do that, but I am conscious about staying creatively healthy, if you know what I mean.
Right.
That is very important.
Selling out, you know, doing it just for the money or the prestige.
Yeah, and that's also why I don't really feel for doing a lot of, let's say, there are, of course, people that see them, that also go into a bit of a production factory, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, come in through my name, and you can produce anything here, and I have like 5 assistants that work on it. I respect that, and I honestly don't know how they do it, because I would go probably crazy because I want to be involved with anything. But it's also wouldn't be my way of working. I want to keep it personal. I want to keep control. I want to keep an overview. And I'm not really in it to just gain anything that I can and as much as possible within a year or anything. I just don't feel like that. You know, I want to make nice things and have a good time doing it. And it's still hard work.
Sounds so healthy, though.
Yeah, and maybe if you look at my days that I work and my hours and the stress that it sometimes gives to keep all these balls in the air, it might not be the healthiest thing. But I am proud of it, and I do it for the right reasons, right?
Right.
And I think people sense that. Also the bands that I work with, they respect that, they feel that.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
This next question is a bit weird because you're doing symphonic metal.
Yeah.
But it's a question that I'd actually like to ask all of the producers. Modern metal has become much cleaner and more polished overall, you know, due to processing and all those mighty sounds. With your sound, it's very cinematic.
Yeah.
And because you do a lot of score stuff, it's just you're in the middle of a movie, and then the rock band comes in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's a big arch of story, almost like prog metal. Really, it's very long. Classical music is like this too.
It has big passages.
Leitmotif,
well.
you know.
Yeah.
But this goes to modern metal. This polished aspect of it that it's so perfect.
Yeah.
And maybe earlier on it was all a bit more, you know, dirty and edgy. And do you see that as a positive development, it getting more perfect, or is it time to get more raw again, maybe?
I think it's getting more raw again.
It is already, okay.
Yeah. So for many years, especially in certain styles, you would never be able to define who played this guitar or if it's really a drummer or, you know. That is also a little bit outside of the symphonic metal, to be honest, because I've never been searching for that kind of style or sound. I actually do respect it a lot, and I wouldn't even really know how to achieve it. But I like a way more old school approach.
Right.
And that also resonates much more with an orchestra and a choir and many layers because it's more organic.
Yeah.
And when you have like one super tight heavy impact thing, you probably need to build on that, and the whole thing might become more, let's say, programmed and more produced. For example, the last Epica album we did has been recorded live in the room, and that was for the sound, because we were searching for a way more organic sound and not nitpicking every detail, also to keep it more fun. you know, and the band can pull it off. So they were very excited to
You
go there.
appreciated the challenge?
Yeah, there was a challenge for them, so that keep them fresh and on point. And to be honest, around me, and that's also a little bit the answer to AI, people are actually searching for the fact that they want to prove it's played live. I mean, live in the studio.
But
So
as
they-
humans.
As humans, because they did a lot of work to learn to play guitar,
Right.
and they want people to
Now
hear
to have it
it's
ripped off by
actually-
some artificial intelligence.
So yes, there has been a time where, you know, there were producers and bands that really tried to push it to the edge where it came to how tight and how impactful it was. Nowadays, computers can probably do it even better than humans. So probably more and more it's getting raw again, where in the style that I do, it always has been a bit more old school.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So and now with the latest Epica album, and we are planning a new project that we will approach like that as well. It's just a lot of fun to do it like that, and it's a different energy. So it works to keep it a little bit more loose, so to say. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very musical as well.
Yeah.
You know?
It's making the musician's heart beat way more than just
Work hard, actually.
Yeah, work hard, but also feel proud of that challenge, you know?
Right. All famous brands or bands, right?
Yeah.
But a band is a brand,
Yeah.
have to deal with their fans' expectations. You know, there's such a thing as fan serving. It's very important
Yeah,
when successful. How much of a part does fan serving play in production? And does it come up in the creative discussions?
Not so much. Well, yes and no. So I
Right.
would say, of course, there is something in there that people will remember that reactions that they got, the songs that work live really well, or got successful in streaming or whatever. So there is always a part of that. And it depends a little bit on the band, how sensitive they are for that.
Right.
But, of course, a lot of bands are very conscious of their style,
Right.
which I think is a good thing. I mean, especially in metal, people don't want to hear a different album all the time.
Sure.
They want they fell in love with this band at some point, probably in a very early stage of their life. Now they're like 15, 20, 25 years older, and they still want to get back to that feeling a bit, at least enough. So they want to hear, oh yeah, I love this guitar sound, or I love this kind of vibe or groove that they're bringing.
Love it when the orchestra comes in.
Yeah, you know, and that shouldn't really change too much.
Sure.
So you are looking to improve, looking to go with the flow where the band's heading and the ideas they get creatively, and where they might go in their vision also, from the looks and the live show and stuff like that. What does it need? What resonates with the fans live? So yes, it does matter, and it is important to take that into account, but that happens a little bit in an organic way, because
Right.
I feel that when
Just knowing who you are.
yeah, it's learning who you are, and
Right.
I believe that also with experience, when a band comes back from a tour they did for weeks, and they continue writing, they still hear the audience in their ears, you know, in a way, and they feel like, oh yeah, if I play this riff, I might see myself on stage playing this riff, or this
People
kind of
digging it.
yeah, exactly. And this kind of song works really well on festival. Let's see if in this certain kind of groove or tempo, we might be able to write another song.
Yeah, or reaching a new height in
Yeah,
the style that you've already proven.
Exactly. So yes, it's important, but we're not super conscious about it, but it's definitely in the subconsciousness.
Right.
Yeah, and that's also why I like to every now and then visit like a concert of one of these bands or go to a festival, because then I see, oh yeah, this part I remember in the studio we felt, you know, it might be a bit too complex or too long, and sometimes it's completely the opposite
Right.
in the live situation. And sometimes it's also in a negative way an opposite, that you feel, wow, no one is really digging this part. I mean,
We're getting too heady.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are trying to be a bit too
Too
pretentious
smart.
here.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Musicians tend to do that anyways.
of course, and that depends on the band. You know, some bands don't try that at all because it's not their passion and they don't feel the need. And other bands, they do tend to go in that direction. And sometimes that works out really well, and sometimes it just misses the message a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been great.
Cool. Well,
I
thank you
mean,
so much.
Great meeting you.
Likewise.
You know,
Thank
thanks
so
for the
much.
answers.
Yeah. Cool.
And well, all I can say is I'm gonna listen to the new shit that's coming.
Thank you so much.
You know, the sound is mighty, and I also like the clarity of it because there's so many instruments involved.
Totally.
I mean, it's got to be so cleaned up, you know, and respect, man.
Thank you so much. Cool.
Have a good one.